sometimes it wears somebody out, and then the person may now feel unable to contribute. When all participants are select as all seated in their various groups, a few minutes will be allocated to facilitate introductions, which means every table you should introduce yourself, get to know yourself, so as to break the ice. After the introductions, Professor Opara will take about 10 minutes to recap on his keynote address with the aim of setting clear objectives of what participants should aim towards as they come up with issues they consider should be in the communique and follow-up activities. During the last few minutes of the syndicate session, you'll be provided some light guidance on how you should wrap the session amongst yourself before returning to plenary. And during plenary, we will all reunite, and each group through their rapporteurs or secretaries will share their findings, what they learned, issues arising from the roundtable, the outcomes and their contributions to the communique. Thereafter, the syndicate session housekeeper, being myself, will present the communique to the House for approval. And once the communique is approved, the DG CEO of Housing, Dr. Henry Imejo, will deliver the closing remark for the end of the two-day event, and then we'll go for lunch. Now, for this session, you have 2 hours. So, starting from after the 10 minutes recap of Professor Opara, you set your timepiece and then start counting down 2 hours. Thank you very much. Professor Opara.
Thank you very much. I don't know whether you can hear me from the back.
Thank you. Good morning. So for the few minutes, I just wanted to make some highlight remarks, just to connect the conversation we had yesterday and then the assignment we have today. I really want to thank all the speakers yesterday. I learned a lot. It was really good to listen from different perspectives. The ideas people have, their own experiences from which we're all learning, and then how we can now deploy those into this syndicated session. So thank you for all the speakers and also for all the participants. I just want to highlight, re-emphasize a few points that will guide us in having the conversation, but also responding to that last page. We're going to have a lot of conversation in each syndicate, but I think this document should pull out those. I think that's the whole idea. So it's quite an important responsibility for the persons that will be trying to summarize and articulate that. So a few points I think that should guide our conversation in the various groups. I think we must somehow agree on some of these. Some of them are quite contentious, right? They're debatable, but I think that's the whole idea. First one is the issue of productivity and production. We only eat what we have. So for us to be food secure, food must be produced, whether it's in our country or elsewhere. So the first thing I think came out from my side yesterday was the issue of increasing productivity and total production. We don't have enough food on our own in our country. That's why we import. I will spend millions committed to bring import. It's because of the deficit. So all our conversation should guide, we must build it in somewhere to say that we are largely a consuming nation. So productivity must increase, total production must increase in a sustainable manner. So that is one. As we talk about that particular productivity and production, if we look at what we produce in our own country, then we should look at what is the yield, what do farmers get per hectare, per unit of their animal. How much milk does a dairy cow in Nigeria produce compared with Kenya? Before we start talking about South Africa and America, these are important because if we address it, it means that there might be entry points for our national institutions to take action. So, increasing productivity and total production, that is one. And linked to that is the fact that we are still largely a consuming nation. I think that message must come out clear. The second one that I think is important, and we can incorporate it in all aspects of the syndicates, is that we need to save our own harvest. That's where I put it. Don't blow too much grammar around it. Then people say they don't understand. If you use the word post-harvest technology, blah, 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 people think it's not their problem. Let's save our harvest. You can put it this way. Let's save our national harvest. That's our asset. We don't pump our oil out of the Niger Delta and then pump it into the Atlantic and Pacific Ocean. We don't do it. We try to sell them so that we can get foreign exchange to run our country. The same thing with our agricultural and horticultural produce. We must save the harvest. And then you guys can unpack your discussion there, what we must do to save the harvest. That means we also need to know our harvest. Right? Yeah. We all of us know, those of us that work for government, we know our salary. So we plan around it. We envy the business people among us here because they can make trillions in one day. But most people, we know what their income is. So you plan around it. So we must know our harvest. Why do we need to know our harvest? Why is it connected to policy? That's where data becomes important. So we need national data. What we produce, where we produce them, and who produces them, and how much we actually produce. I think sometimes we have an inflated imagination of what we produce, in my view. Sometimes it's inflated. We just look at the history in the past and we think we're still producing that way. So we must save the harvest. And that means we must know, have the data on losses, quantity produced, who produces them, and where. Second one related to saving the harvest is that the quality of the thing we produce is very poor. I don't know about you, so sometimes I go to the local market myself just to go and buy tomatoes. And they will have them in 2 different baskets, 3 different. They'll ask me, which one do you want? Right? You're going to make stew? You buy this one that they're all broken and water is dripping and lots of maggots and the mold of them, right? And the other one is much better quality. So the issue of quality must be addressed. Quality is very, very poor. And related, we can't talk about quality without talking about safety. The safety of our food is largely compromised, that's one. And that's why if you buy those kind of tomatoes, you have to boil them overnight, right? We think we're trying to keep those places again. So that means the issue of good agricultural practices becomes important. Someone already spoke to it yesterday. So I'm trying to make the connections between the keynote and the various things. They're going to be all over the place, but it's your job to pull them together. So good agricultural practice becomes important in the country. And good agricultural practice must not be seen to be only in the field, those planting and harvesting. It's a value chain. Good post-harvest practices. Agriculture doesn't stop on the farm, does it? So when we talk about good agricultural practice, please use a value chain approach so that every stakeholder can see. So that's number 2. So we talked about increasing productivity and production. We talked about saving the harvest. The third one, I think, be very, very important is for us to think about markets and trade. I think we must focus on markets and trade. The business people know that's what drives productivity. It's the market. Whether it's a short market or a long market. So we must focus on market.